All right, there we go, guys. It's time to go into the spoilerverse for the latest episode of The Last of Us, episode 7, Left Behind. Guys, if it's your first time listening to our recap, just to cover what we're going to do spoiler-wise, if you have watched up until the latest episode, you are safe. If you haven't watched episode 7, watch it and then come back and you'll be good to go. We are gamers and we are going to talk about The Last of Us game, but the way we talk about it is we want to kind of give you backstory and enhance your enjoyment of it, so we may make comparisons, give you a bit of extra background, but we're not going to talk about any plot details that come in after episode 7, so we won't give away anything you need to know, but we may kind of allude to it or kind of use our game knowledge to kind of just enhance your experience and enjoyment of it. This week, to join us to discuss this as we jump back in, I'm being joined by not one but two Kevs, because we can't do it. One Kev just wouldn't be enough to tackle this episode. Kev Keane of Fan Club and former pro wrestler or current pro wrestler. I don't know what the status is there. Ballymun Bruiser.
No, never again.
I think I just sidetracked you into retiring. I'm so sorry. I just kind of assumed I was
over.
Heard it here first.
There you go. We got an exclusive. I just forced it out of him. That's the way to get news. If someone says former, then you just kind of have to assume that you're done. Sorry, Bruiser. Anyway,
do me a favor.
You're very welcome back to page 180. How are we feeling now? We're heading into the home stretch. Are we getting emotional? Are we ready for it to end? How's it kind of settling with Bruiser? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I don't like the DLC.
Okay.
I don't like the DLC episode.
Okay.
I played the game the first time without any DLC, so I just didn't think it was needed.
Okay.
You know, I think there's a lot to now try and fit in the last 3 episodes. I probably would have liked them to not have it in.
Okay.
You know, that way, just. But yeah, it's got to be an action-packed 3 episodes. Now they've left that there's a lot to fit in to the last 3 episodes. You know, so
I don't want to alarm you, but it's 2 episodes. It's not 3.
What?
There's even more.
We can waste a fucking episode of a fucking love story. A love story in the middle of a fucking. Oh, come on.
Okay. We will discuss. Don't worry. Hold your fire. We will discuss the episode. Kev, we're heading into the last couple of episodes. How are you feeling now? Are you getting kind of has the grieving process started, or are you kind of ready to get to the big hitters?
I'm just really excited for this home stretch now, because I know we all know what the next episode's going to be, and it's one of, I'm sure, all our most anticipated episodes. I'd agree with Kev though as well. I wasn't a massive fan of last night's episode either.
Okay. I'm loving this. Interesting. All right, and I have some stuff to say as well. So I'm not a million miles away from where you guys are. Okay, but before we get into discussing it, let's frame what we're discussing as we always do. Let's give our alt recap and let's kind of remind ourselves where we're at and what happened, and that can kind of tailor our kind of jumping off points in the conversation we have. So episode 7, Left Behind, and we check back in with Ellie treating Joel's stab wound, with him telling her to go north and find Tommy, as that triggers a flashback to her getting in a fight in a PE class in the QZ. And wow, Ellie's flashbacks really go back to the start, don't they? Could you speed up the whole remembering shit there, Ellie, please? Joel is literally bleeding out in the garage. Could you know what I mean? It's this reminds me of back when I was in PE as a child. It's no, he's dying. Make a decision here, hurry up. In the flashback, we see her old best O'Reilly invade her room at night and scare her, which is a massive dick move in a world where the dead are coming back as mushrooms to eat you alive permanently. Riley tells her that she's joined the Firefly but has returned to give Ellie the best night of her life. Seriously, having the person you fancy tell you that and then taking you to a shopping centre to drink some booze you found on a corpse is worse than having a Tinder date in a McDonald's drive-thru. Come on, Riley, you can do better than that. She shows her the electric stairs, a merry-go-round. They giggle at the lingerie and Victoria's Secret, and they play some Mortal Kombat 2. Oh, it's such a perfect day if you're 6. The romance is killed though when to continue the earlier metaphor, it's like your Tinder date in a McDonald's turns out to be a lifelong member of Sinn Féin, because Ellie finds some pipe bombs that Riley's just been chilling chilling out with when she's not on a merry-go-round. Ellie storms off, but eventually goes back for an old dance from the shift. That is until an infected absolutely wrecks the buzz and bites both of them before Ellie takes it out with a knife. They agree to stick together until the infection takes them, though. That brings Ellie back to the present. Wait, that was it? That was all you wanted to remember? All of that so you could just say, never give up? In the meantime, while she's been thinking about all this, Joel has bled out on the floor and is now dead, and his body's starting to disintegrate. And that was episode 7. Oh no, it wasn't really. Joel's still alive. But yeah, Ellie's gone back to save him because never give up or something like that. That's episode 7, Left Behind. So, guys, we're kind of getting into it. Okay, we're not really feeling it. So, Bruiser, we kind of got your high level kind of feelings around it. Kev, you've touched on it, so you can give us a bit more. You weren't into this week's episode.
Yeah, and it's probably for a weird reason of it wasn't changed enough. It's the exact same as the game for the DLC. That like there was just, and I know we know most of the story beats going ahead anyway, but it was just like watching someone play the DLC in front of me. Like it was just too similar. There was one or two bits I quite liked that they kind of added in, like the the commander when he was having that chat with Ellie.
Yes.
When she punched out the girl, I thought that was a good way of kind of maybe humanizing Fedra a little bit and maybe kind of making them not out to be completely bad guys in a way. I thought that kind of humanized them a little bit because you don't really get to spend that much time with any of Fedra really. And I thought that was a nice kind of juxtaposition, but like for the most part, bar one or two little bits, it was just too similar to the game for me, and that's probably a weird nitpick, but yeah, I just wasn't really a fan of it.
Okay, I agree a lot with that, because again, like, yeah, there's just not enough there to kind of for us to get really stuck into or mostly invested, because we know the beats it's going to hit. And like, I imagine if I hadn't seen this, I'd say it's a great episode. So again, like, I see a lot of people raving about this, and I don't want to take away from the artistic merit of it. I enjoyed watching this, but again, yeah, I can't say that it hit me in the same way episode 3 or 5 did. And it is something that it's interesting because, Bruce, I remember you kind of saying that you weren't mad about the adaptation side of this sometimes, and that you're like, we have the perfect script here. Do you think kind of this is more score 1.4 having adapted, or kind of was it just you don't like Left Behind in general?
No, I don't love Left Behind at all, especially where it comes in. It comes in at, such a pivotal moment where the intensity is so high, everything's just happened, and that, you can kind of get straight into the action, or we can really get depressed for a while. You know what I mean? And have this slow build situation. I don't think it was needed, I didn't play that DLC until I've done a replay on the PS5 or PS4 or whatever. Yeah. So when I was playing, I was kind of just like, well, you've just taken me momentum away. It just disappeared. And I felt the same again in the episode, kind of taking the momentum away. As you said, he's bleeding out, and we have a 45-minute cutscene. Like, fuck off. Come on, he's bleeding out. Like, sort this shit out. So yeah, I generally knew I wasn't gonna like it. As soon as it started, as soon as he was in the gym, I was like, oh fuck, here we go. I know what this is. It's gonna be the entire episode, and I'm not gonna like it. But it was very close to the to the game part. As Kev said, probably the best scene to me was the commander bit, because it was new and fresh and just created a little bit of a different perspective on things. But everything else was just very, much the same. I have one question for you though. I hope I don't deter things. What year is this supposed to the gimmick supposed to happen in again, where everything goes to shit?
So it's this year, so 2023. So the apocalypse happened in 2003. This is 2023.
But Mortal Kombat 2 in an arcade.
Wait,
Mortal Kombat 2 is in Token, I think.
Yeah.
Is what? Yeah, Token. This is a fucking children's arcade. I've been to them recently because I have a tiny child that loves going to this Poxy Play Center. And Mortal Kombat 2 was not there. They don't have any fun shit like that. There's no way they'd have it. Token, fine. You go to these nostalgic spots. This place didn't look like a nostalgic one. Fucking.
It was 2003 when that would have came out. So Mortal Kombat 2 would have been what, 89? Are we talking for Mortal Kombat 2? Is it thereabouts?
No, probably like 95, I'd say.
One of
95,
these
yeah.
characters, like, one had a fucking smartphone and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. You could say that it's
GTA.
fair because I don't know. It happens at like Mortal Kombat then probably would have been around 6 or 7 years of age at that stage. It wouldn't have been an old, nostalgic game at that stage when the apocalypse happened.
The era that we went to Plex in around then.
Plex.
No
Mortal Kombat. I've been in the Plex.
there was no fun games like that.
You would have had Dance Dance Revolution.
Yeah, wasn't like Tekken. Fuck.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, a lot of pool. Yeah, there you go. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, who knows? Maybe Americans do things differently. I'm gonna kind of agree. And again, I did enjoy this episode. I want to kind of give credit to the actress who played Riley. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but as well, I thought Bella Ramsey is doing excellent as Ellie, and I kind of want to touch on that in a little bit as well. And she brought a lot of heart to this and humanity to this, and this was really good as well for people who don't like. Again, I kind of get why gamers would feel as we feel, because again, we love Ellie, you know what I mean? So Bella Ramsey is just like bringing us up to an emotional point that we're going to be at. And to be fair, I'd like to discuss this more in detail, but I think she's kind of got there, and I think she's done the thing with Ellie really, really effectively. But as well, like, it's not new to us to be there, you know? So I think this is more important for other people. It is interesting and maybe a little bit concerning as we head into the last two episodes, knowing that we know what episode 8 is going to be, and we know what episode 9 is going to be. But also we now know that we don't necessarily have an appetite for seeing the game just played out as we know, as the beats we know. We do want that extra content, and we do want to kind of be stimulating the way that people who didn't play the game are as well, which is interesting because the series is made. Maybe they don't have time. They don't have time to change it or learn that lesson. So we maybe might set ourselves up for, I don't say disappointment, because I don't think it's a poorly made show. Maybe we've just been a bit spoiled in the past few weeks with the stuff they've got added on. But for me, the impression of this week and last week was, and I never wanted to be one of these people, especially with this show, because I was so enthusiastic for it, but I couldn't help but be like, they did it better in the game, the way they formatted it. Okay. We obviously didn't get a chance to talk about last week, but when we spoke a few weeks ago about things we were dying to see happen in this show, the end of last week's episode was the answer that I gave. So when Joel died, I was expecting it to be like, and again, we know that Joel doesn't die, but when he gets stabbed in the game, for anyone who's never played it, okay, you die with Joel. And because you play as Sarah at the start when she dies, you know that the game has the balls to kill off a character that you play as. So you can literally, like, you don't get stabbed, you actually get impaled. Like, you fought, like, he gets into a brawl similar with the hunters that he did at the episode 6, and then you fall off a ledge and then you get impaled. So you're like, holy shit, like, that's, you don't come back from that. And then you're trying hard to get away, and Ellie's trying to cajole you in the way that she was, but you can feel like the more you try, the slower Joel gets, and you can feel the life be drained out of him. I was in bits for that part of the game. I was even worse than the Sarah part, because I'm literally, it's like I felt myself dying. You know what I mean? Like, you're so entranced in it. And I was like, if they can capture that feeling, or just capture the feeling of, like, even then you start the next episode again, and I won't get into kind of the plot, because it does start to get into where we go next week and at the start of next. But you start it with the time jump that we had at the start of this, where all of a sudden it's snowy and it's different, and now we're kind of in a different level of the game, or a different timeline, so to speak. And then Ellie's by herself, hunting and trying to just fend for herself. So now you're like, Joel's actually dead. I watched Joel die and I was sure he died, and now because Ellie's by herself, Joel's dead. And then you kind of get into true, like, the Left Behind part does kick in at this part of the game. It was added on after the game, but like where Left Behind ties in is Ellie is trying to get, we learn Joel is obviously alive in the garage, but we then flash back to Ellie trying to, she's in a shopping mall and she's trying to get him medicine. And that reminds her of being in a shopping mall with Riley. And that's how the two are linked together. And that, for me, takes you on a much better journey, because what I expected at the end of last week was it to be like when Ned Stark died in Game of Thrones, where you're like, you can't kill Pedro Pascal. What have you done? And for non-game players to have that kind of fake out reaction. And I was dying for that. And I don't think anyone bought it. I didn't see people go crazy. I don't think they sold people on the fact that Joel could be dead. I think it's like, oh yeah, but Joel's going to be fine. Pedro Pascal's going to be fine. And it's like, you shouldn't feel safe in this story. You know what I mean? Because they are not afraid to kill big people. So for me, that's the part where the game got it. And again, like that tainted this, because I'm almost like, I went into it similar to yourself, Bruiser, and that I went into it going like, I don't think I'm going to like it. I don't think this is going to hit as much for me, because I'm kind of feeling disappointed. Now, look, that doesn't affect where we are next week. We know what next week's episode is going to be. We're not going to get into it, obviously. I don't feel that I'm any worse off than I would be. I still think next week has every opportunity to traumatize me in much the same way this portion of the games did. But yeah, I am a bit disappointed.
Like
ahead,
next week's episode's my episode. You know, remember when we said at the start, we all said a comment. It's that. It's been leading to that, and obviously the reasons why and all. And I suppose the one thing of this episode was Bella I really think she looked like this was her episode. I'd say when she read the script, she was like, this is the episode that'll make me, you know? So all our little side glances, all our little other shit, I think she was planning on tying into this is why, and this is how come everything else you've seen is, you know, she really enjoyed this episode, I think, to film, and like probably more of a story, and got to create the back character and everything else. So yeah, maybe it is needed, and then maybe we'll come out of next week's episode going, we needed it, because it tied in everyone else that probably wasn't getting the same sympathy reaction that we might have had from playing the game and controlling them, and you know what I mean, being them. Maybe she tied it in with that performance, you know, possibly. That's what I'm hoping. You know, that we'll see next week's episode and we'll be like, actually, you know what, they fucking were right. You know what I mean, they were bang on.
And again, like, it is going to be, I think next week, like the next two episodes are like, they're both huge Joel and Ellie episodes. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're both characters go through big stuff over the last two episodes. And it really, like, again, I'm actually buzzing now thinking about making it real in my head. I'm like, okay, I'm actually really excited again. But like, Ellie, we spoke early in the show where it was important that Ellie had to be in a certain situation, and in a certain, we as the audience had to feel a certain way about Ellie there, that when we were first introduced to her, we didn't feel that way, and that was fine. We knew that wasn't necessarily indicative, because you feel very similar in the game. Now we're here where you need to feel that way about Ellie for next week to hit. Kev, do you feel that Bella has done Ellie justice in that way? Like, where are you feeling for kind of what we're about to go through?
Yeah, it's can I just get back actually to something you just said as well? I think this DLC episode would have been better after Henry and Sam had died. I think it would have been a much better placement of it, because it's something you brought up there that was like, fuck, that's a really big missed opportunity. If you had Joel get stabbed and it ends the way it ends, and then you have her the next episode out hunting, you don't see Joel at all. She's completely on her own, and you don't have the reveal of Joel being back at that house till the end of the episode.
Yeah,
that's how you fucking get people, and that's because like everybody that I worked with as well that haven't played the game knew he wasn't dead as well, and that really kind of fucked with things a little bit. And I think it's maybe more the placement of that was where they kind of went wrong. I do,
because
think
that's one of the best, like that's almost like pro wrestling, like, you know what I mean? Like, again, we won't get into it, but like the revelation that Joel's alive and you're like, that is such a huge moment that we now just don't have. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, because it just, again, you'll experience it next week, but it just comes at the perfect time. And when you watch it next week, if you haven't played the games, you'll know instantly the time that I'm referring to. That it's like gamers have that, Joel's alive, oh my God, he's alive. You know what I mean? It is like that. The wrestling good guys music hits like at just the right time. You know what I mean? It is like that, and it's really, really powerful. So yeah, I agree with that. Like, the structure that they have for the next portion of the game was perfect in it, and they fucked with the structure, and now we're left with, did they fuck with the game, or did they have something up their shoulders? Because again, we don't have a lot of backstory for the people that we're about to meet, so maybe they
Yeah.
could do stuff like that. You know what I mean? There's avenues there that they could go down, or levers they could pull, where at the end of the season we could be like, oh yeah, that's why. Like kind of what you're saying, Bruiser, where we're like, oh yeah, that's why they did what they did. But again,
There
yeah,
was
just as a gamer, we're kind of like they've gone off track here.
I must say it's also a little shit. The girl that played Ramsey, is that what you said her name
Riley.
was?
Bella Ramsey, yeah.
Really? She was fucking deadly. Like
Yeah.
really good. Like it was a shame it kind of went the way it did, right? Like you get these great character portrayals and it's one and done, and you're like, you know what I mean? It's a bit disappointing because she was also fantastic. That just popped into my head throughout it all, because if I had to pick a standout moment of it all, it's her. It's her in her battle to want to join the Fireflies and to get away from Fedra, and you know the task she was given by Fedra. Like she was her inner reflection throughout it all, I thought was probably the highlights of the episode.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just a shame that it's just one, you know.
That's
There's a
the
line
new content. Go ahead.
There's a line she says, I remember being kind of like, she's turned into a bit of a psychopath and stuff as well. There's a line she says where I have to go for drill training and how to kill fireflies tomorrow. And you're like, you're 14 years old and you're being trained to kill people. That's what you've grown up on now. And like, there's no wonder you are the way you are when you've been doing drill training every morning to kill people. Like, and I thought it's a subtle line, and it's a bit of a throwaway line, but I picked up on that being like, oh, this is kind of why she is the way she is a little bit now.
Yeah.
And that was like one of my the highlight parts of the episode for me. It's just tiny little bits and pieces, like that conversation with a Commander Kwong, I think his name was.
Yeah.
I thought that just the bits and pieces like that I thought were great. I also just love this the split second look of oh fuck before the girl gets punched out as well by Ellie. It was just great.
It was the typical. It was a great and that's a great storyline trope. But it's like the bully realizes they've gone too far.
Yeah,
and it's just like sorry, Bruce, I can't hear you there.
Was quite smug. It was just like, yeah, knock the bitch
out. Yeah, 100%. And like,
stitches sounded ridiculous though.
What's that?
Like 15 stitches, they said she was getting.
I know, for one punch, that's Tyson level.
What the
fuck? Well, who knows? Maybe she carved up her face with her pocket knife or something. You wouldn't know. She was mad for the pocket knife here, which again, interesting bit. Just remember that. But you have here it's interesting because the things we're talking about are exactly the new bits of information we got. You know what I mean? We didn't get Riley, by the way, was played by Storm Reed, by the way. I want to give that a shout out because she was fantastic in this. And again, I don't want to I feel like we're almost being hard. We're kind of, I think what we're speaking towards is more a disappointment to this. At least for me personally, I enjoyed watching this episode of television. I was not thinking this is terrible. I hate this the entire time. For what it's worth, I don't know about you guys, but again, I'm more speaking towards my maybe high expectations that I had versus kind of where I landed. And I was more just in hindsight, I started to have these thoughts. I enjoyed the stuff like that, like Storm Reed, absolute powerhouse performance, but also again, Quan and the bit we got into Fedra, because again, you get none of that in game. Fedra in the game are rent a bad guy. You know what I mean? We just need people to kill because you need to learn how to play the game and you need to learn how to fight. You know what I mean? So Fedra are a bunch of bad guys that Joel has to kind of run down throughout the early parts of the game. What I found really interesting here was, did Quan seemed more reasonable than we've kind of been led to believe that Fedra have been. Now, part of that is due to the fact that I don't think there's any government. I don't think there's anyone. I don't think they have the ability to mass communicate in the way that they would have in the old world. For example, they speak of the internet as this, you had access to everything. So I don't think there is a government. I think Fedra there's different Fedra stations, and they kind of in Kansas City, it could be one way, but in Boston, they could be good Fedra and so on and so forth. it seems like Kwando is actually a kind of decent person. You know what I mean? He believes in the cause. He genuinely believes that what he's doing is actually helping people. He says at one point, like, look, if I know we've got a bad rep, but like, if we're not here, people are going to starve and start killing each other. And again, whether that's the case or not, it's what he believes. So he is doing it for the right reasons. He's a family man. We see that he actually cares about Ellie. He's not being sadistic at any stage as we've been led to believe. And then on the flip side, we've kind of discussed it. Yeah, you have the Fireflies, and we're led to believe Marlene is the kind of the good guy who's trying to save the world and use Ellie and stuff like that. But also Marlene is also recruiting Riley and putting guns in her hands and having her stationing her out in the mall with pipe bombs to kind of murder the likes of Ellie. You know what I mean? Like, that's what her job is. She has to hunt out and murder kind of, you know, people living in the QZ that contains her best friend and all the people that she interacted with previously. So this was interesting. What side did you feel more, I guess, kinship to yourselves? And again, everyone could have a Team Fedra or a Team Fireflies here, because again, I feel like we kind of got Team Fedra were almost the good guys in this episode, whereas Team Fireflies were the bad guys. But like, again, we've seen the opposite. So where are you guys kind of sitting on that side? And we heard Ellie and it's relevant because we did hear Ellie and Riley constantly arguing amongst themselves about which one's better and how that, where does that sit for you guys?
Like, it's hard to kind of tell, because like they're painted as the good guys here, and you have the Fireflies recruiting kids, and like, even the fact that like Ellie didn't believe her that she was in the Fireflies till she just showed her the gun as well. It wasn't like the pendants or anything like that in the game. It's just like, oh, I've got a gun here, and she's like, and then she believed her. But at the same time, you've Fedra just drill training kids to kill Fireflies as well. So I don't really know. That it's kind of, there's no good guys here, I don't think, really. And like Quan, he was sound and he gave her back the Walkman, but he definitely gave out like just recruitment officer vibes of nearly like a job agency, nearly like and so he's just trying to be your best friend, I think. And that's the kind of attitude he kind of took. So yeah, there's no real good guys or bad guys here. Everybody's kind of their own kind of bad moral kind of area, I suppose. But just like anything though, and I like that about it though. Everything shouldn't be just black and white of like these are good guys or bad guys, and
that's what this show is, though. Again, like, kind of we hear of Joel's like horrible past, and everyone keeps like saying, and these people who, like, again, you look at last week, for example, like you had like there were like where Tommy lives, Jackson. It looks like an amazing community once you get in, but you hear the old couple at the start. Yeah, well, we will get to that. Well, you hear the old couple at the start. They call that community the River of Death. You know what I mean? So good guy, bad, and then like, but the people like then the people in the River of Death who have all these people who've crossed them and like hold them up at the gates, like hang their bodies from the gates. They look at Joel and they're like, "Whoa, you are fucked up, son." So like we again, I think heroism in this story is based on when you meet someone, what their motivation is then, because I think everyone we meet to have got 20 years into the apocalypse has done some shit. We all know Henry even turns around and he's like, "I'm not a good guy. I'm a collaborator. I'm a dickhead." Like when he first talks to Joel. So again, it's like maybe if we'd seen Henry at a different time, he'd have been a bad guy. But Kev, like, I guess we're talking about emotions then. I guess we're talking about how you feel. Bruiser, who did you feel more when you heard kind of Riley and Ellie kind of arguing? Who did you feel?
It was just two people caught up in a wrong, right? Like, as Kev said, there's no good guys in this situation. Like, it's two people being politically coerced into believing something else, right? Like, I think it's two villains, it's two heels. Fedrid's a heel. I never liked Fireflies. Like, from the start of playing, I was like, these are fucking assholes. And the reality is, the only faces are the tweeners, the likes of Joel, who just want to stand in the middle and play his own cards. You know what I mean? He's like, I'll do whatever for whoever once I'm the beneficiary, you know? And that's the only face move to make in a situation like that, because you've got two bad groups.
He plays
So
one side, so he always ends up on top. Like it's the time-honored tradition. So obviously, look, we had like Ellie and Riley. This is a love story at the core of it, and it was interesting. I think I listened to the HBO podcast with Craig Mason and Neil Druckmann, the two showrunners for this show, and it was interesting because it may have looked strange, and they spoke about this. It may have looked strange to see, in 2023, to see two queer people struggling to admit their feelings to each other. You know what I mean? Because again, like that's something that it's more normalized now for us. And when we're watching this, especially we watched Bill and Frank a few weeks ago, and it was like, that was such like a normal story, and it was a beautiful story in a way. But like what they hammered home there was how we've kind of gotten used to that becoming normalized throughout our lifetime and over the past 20 years. Whereas in 2003, that wasn't normalized. So again, it would be very confusing for teenagers trying to navigate that, because they're dealing with a stigma that they probably just wouldn't deal with in our world. So that's part of what it is, which is very profound and very deep. I'm going to ask you a not profound and not deep and very immature question. We see both trying to navigate that line of kind of trying to get the shift, basically trying to lob the gob, and they're both trying different tactics. You have Ellie, who's like kind of going for, every time they have close bonding moments, Ellie's just giving her a lingering look like, go on, kiss me. Whereas Riley's like kind of teasing her and just kind of going like, she sees the Victoria's Secret thing and she's like, I'm trying to picture you in that, and then laughs, which is like, she's kind of like, that's an insult. Like she's negging her. Who had the better game for you guys? Was it Ellie or Riley? Bruiser, who the better game for you?
Riley was obviously more confident, I think, but in saying that, just how I didn't even take into consideration the awkwardness of them being gay. To me, it was just seemed like the awkwardness of two teenagers trying to hook up.
Yeah,
like if you think, I don't know, man. I don't know about you guys, but I think if I think back to how I was trying to get the shift back in the day, I'm sure it was fucking cringy as shit. You know what I mean? So to me, it just brought me back to that, and I thought it was played really well. It never, I guess, probably that's naivety from myself to have not considered them coming out to each other aspect of it all.
Mm.
I suppose that's an oversight on my part. I didn't really take that into consideration, but again, we're privileged with the fact that we didn't have, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, it was. Riley had more game. Neither of them had game though, man. It was fucking crazy.
It's hard to have game in the apocalypse. That's fair.
They got Mortal Kombat. That was about it.
Yeah, that's it. Kev, what was your thoughts on their respective games and attempts to kind of lob the goal?
Yeah, I did know like Ellie kept pushing her off every time Riley to get close to her, because like when she kind of half fell in the elevator, she kind of caught her and she pushed her off, and then when they're having like the photo booth moments, she's like, get off me at the end of it then as well. So it was her maybe not being able to 100% kind of comfortably be who she actually is, I think, as well, till that dance moment. And I thought that arc getting up to that dance moment was really nice and sweet, of her kind of constantly denying to the point of just letting into her feelings then as well.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's her kind of grappling with stigma. I think we saw this at the start of the episode where Riley's like, you're going to say no, but then you're going to say yes. And then Riley's like, put on your pants. And Ellie's like, well, turn around. And Riley's like, you're so weird with that. You know what I mean? And it's so interesting because it tells you so much at the same time. It's like Riley wants to see her, strip and get changed and stuff like that for her own reasons. But like Ellie is so worried about the stigma and everything around it that again she can't, even though she loves this person and she wants to be seen by this person, she can't let herself be so, because she's just dealing with that the entire time. I think that was really effective and powerful story in a very subtle tiny way, but it was very real. And I know Druckmann and Mason are they're very concerned about making, especially the kind of the non-heteronormative love stories that are in this. They're very concerned with making them feel real and authentic and not kind of just forced or obvious. And I think they're getting that aspect right, which is really effective. Last thing about this episode, what was your favorite wonder of them all? So we had the electric stairs, we had the merry-go-round, Mortal Kombat 2, or Dancing with Masks. What did it do it for you?
I legitimately was gonna ask you fuckers that. That's fucking in me head here, legs.
What was it for you, Bruce? Go on. I obviously have one then.
constantly horror. Like, come on, the fuck. I'd love that Halloween shop. We fucking spend hours in there, spend thousands of euro as well, and leave like fucking deadly looking.
Love it. Kev, what would be for you if you got taken on a hot date to the mall?
Arcade for me, Mortal Kombat 2 all the way.
Yeah,
it's gotta be. It's
You have to
one of
go
my
back to
favorite franchises.
1992 though, Kev, when they had it in the arcade.
I'd
love it either way.
I think we're all underestimating the big one. For me, my favorite was, and it wouldn't be now, we all take it for granted now, but if you've never experienced it, think about when you were a kid and you went on an escalator for the first time. Was Ellie's reaction not exactly how you felt? What kind of sorcery is this? The stairs move, and then you try to go up it again, and you're like, what the hell? I thought that was so perfect from Bella Ramsey, because do you remember at the end she tried to like climb on the side and then she just awkwardly kind of fell? It was just so real. It was so unpolished. So electric stairs for me. If I'd never seen electric stairs before. Also a little Easter egg, The Cure, Just Like Heaven was the song that was played in the merry-go-round.
I love that. It was like a little rockabye baby kind of version of it.
Yeah.
Although a really good little point about that is 80s music's danger.
Yeah. Oh, love it. Oh my God. Great show. Amazing.
Man, you're putting a lot more effort into this shit than I am.
Okay.
Because when that started playing, I was like, oh, fuck, here we go.
Way to show me up, Kev. Thanks.
Amazing. Guys, we're there. We're at the end game. 2 episodes left. Are we there? Are we confident? Are we like, this is it? This is going to be what we want it to be? Or are we a bit nervous now because, again, this didn't hit in kind of the way we're feeling? How are we feeling now? Know what's coming. Go for Bruce. We'll start with you, or Kev. We'll start with you. Whoever wants to jump in.
Yeah, listen, I'll jump in with it. Yeah, to me, I don't think they can do it wrong. I think it's going to be 2 of the best television episodes you've ever seen in your life. I think if we go off the games, it's going to be hard to fuck this one up, man. The next two episodes, it's hard to fuck them up. I really don't think it's possible. I honestly think it was 2 of the best, chapters and storytelling times in anything I've ever watched, ever played, ever that. And so I feel we're going to be the same way. It ain't going to be easy to fuck this up, and they've not really fucked up much so far. So I think we're in. I think we're on. I think we're invested. I think I'm going to look back and go, at the end of episode 8 coming up, I think I'm going to look back and go, I liked 7, right? Like, maybe I would have liked to see 7 broken down and added in through a couple of episodes, like a little few flashbacks for Ellie, like here and there, maybe when the lads died and all, that would have probably been a bit nicer. But either way, I think I'm going to see episode 8 and go, yeah, like, that was grand. I've connected. She's Ellie now. She's fucking there. I'm with her. And I'm taking every step with her. And I imagine I'm going to be doing that from the start of that episode.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm going to be there and I'm going to be fucking fully invested.
You got me back. Kev. How you feeling? Don't wreck the balls, Kev. I'm on a positive one now.
Oh no, I'm 100% hype train for these next 2 episodes. I watched the preview of next week's one, and it looks unreal. So I'm hype trains at the station for me with these 2. Like Kev said as well, like they can't fuck these 2 up with the quality that's already kind of come before it. If anything, they'll hopefully, I think, add in maybe a couple of other little bits and pieces as well that'll just make him even better. But can't wait.
I think I think they're gonna enhance it. I think they're gonna get it right. Lads, I'm in. I'm back in. All right, we got there. We got there.
We never watch season 2 ever.
Season 2 is gonna be great. It's gonna be fine. Don't worry, they'll get it right.
Never happened, mate.
Love it. Kevs, thanks for joining us. Good luck in retirement, Bruiser.
Look at the bags under my eyes, legs. Do I look like
He's retiring right in front of us. Anyway, always a pleasure. Kev Fan Club on Twitter, at B1 Bruiser on Twitter. Give them a follow as well. Get their thoughts. And thanks as always. Pleasure.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Cheers. Good luck.